Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television and radio talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern time zone as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. We're still doing television, Abundance Television. I want to thank Rob Patz for that. He keeps putting up with me. That's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. And we're on the radio. Yeah, WZLA. They're the biggest country station in South Carolina. Thank you guys so much for letting me also be part of your team there. I definitely appreciate that. And all the social media sites, we're still doing that as well. Nothing has changed, just been adding a few extra things. Got a couple more things that we're talking to some folks about also, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you about that next month. So anyway, thank you so much to all of our sponsors who are staying with us and who have come on board. We definitely appreciate all you guys, and we'll be talking to you about that pretty soon. Got Alan Mendenhall with me, and Alan has been with me for a number of years. This is my go-to finance guy right here. And let's talk to folks about your background. We've got a lot of new viewers right now.
Well, thank you, Donna. It's always a pleasure to go on the show. I can't believe we've been doing this almost a decade. But I'm presently at the Heritage Foundation. I'm a senior advisor in the Capital Markets Initiative. And as of last week, I'm also a research fellow in the Rowe Institute for Economic and Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation. So I've sort of got two hats at the moment. And I just love this show, and I'm grateful to all your sponsors for continuing to sponsor it and giving listeners the opportunity to hear all kinds of different perspectives and interesting people.
Well, the show is a success because of folks like you and the sponsors, because folks, they love information. They want the truth. They don't want anything watered down, and you're one of them. Okay, you'll tell us the good and the bad and ugly, and I'm so glad of that because that's what we need to do. I wanted to mention this. So there's a financial advisor here in Abbeville, in Greenwood, South Carolina, and I was talking with him the other day because I'm like on the news and stuff, and even on Facebook, you're always hearing about, oh, I've got it rough. I need to find a food bank and all this kind of stuff. I'm hearing all that. But I'm trying to figure this out. So I just asked him, I said, is it just me? Am I living on another planet? I said, because my business is doing great. And it's always been a good business, but it seems like it's just getting better and better and better. And I said, is it just me? And he said, hold it. He said, I'm a conservative. He said, it depends on who you ask. He said, if you're asking folks who are not conservatives about finances, they're going to give you the bad news on it because Trump's in office. And it doesn't matter if Trump gave us all $1 million out of his own pocket, they're still going to be negative about it. He said, I'm seeing a huge increase. And he said, as far as what he works with a finance company, actually who does holdings and help you grow your money kind of a thing without giving out who he is. And he said, no, he said, our folks are making a lot of money. And so we're all part of the BNI group in South Carolina. And everybody's there they're just so grateful to him because he's helping them handle their money, but he does it on a conservative way. Is there a difference between people who are conservatives, how they handle their money, and maybe people who are not quite conservatives? Can that be the benefactor or the negativeness in finances in your household or your business?
Well, you're actually reminding me of this famous, perhaps infamous ETF that tracks Nancy Pelosi's trades, and it's outperforming Warren Buffett right now. But the joke is because they can insider trade without consequence up there in Congress. But I don't know that in terms of personal finance, there's necessarily a trend that falls along political lines. I would have to look into that myself. I do think that young people who are conservative, and this is just purely anecdotal on my part, this is not an empirical statement, but I do think that young people who are conservative tend to be better with their money than probably young people who are not conservative. In the past, when we would talk about financial advice and personal finance, and keep in mind, I am not a financial advisor in any way. But I think I would tend, and maybe it was just because of my age, to sort of give a cookie cutter response that was a one size fits all. But I actually think financial advice is very different, obviously, for people of different ages. What you would advise somebody in their 20s is very different from what you'd advise somebody in their 50s or 60s. And so, what somebody who's young, let's say 20s and 30s, maybe even teenager, what they ought to be doing is different from somebody who is retired. And it's important to make those distinctions. Obviously, young people should live beneath their means. I think the tendency for young people is to fall prey to what they call lifestyle inflation, which is when you get your paychecks for the first time and you start making money, rather than packing it away, investing it, you treat it as the opportunity to upgrade. Okay, now I'm going to get a new car, or now I'm going to get these clothes I want, or now I'm going to get this or that because I have more purchasing power. When the reality is you're better off long-term putting some of that money away, because that will be much better for you in your future years. The other thing is a lot of young people don't invest, partially because a lot of young people have it tough. They're saddled with student loan debt, so they're paying off student loan debt, or they're making their car payments, or whatever it is. But even if you make just modest contributions to, I mentioned earlier, an ETF, or to any sort of diversified fund, then you're working with compound interest, which is making your money multiply without any work on your part. That's great. Another problem that young people fall prey to is credit card debt, which is terrible because those credit card interest rates are so high. You want to pay those things off every month and treat it like a debit card almost, where you're swiping, but you're paying it off every month so that interest doesn't accrue. I use an American Express card that's tied to my Delta. I travel a lot, so I love getting those extra Delta points. So whenever I use my American Express, I'm getting Delta points too, which means because I'm flying often and because I'm using that card, I get all these great upgrades. So if I buy an economy ticket for coach, next thing you know, I'm getting upgraded to first class. And guess what? I didn't have to buy the first class ticket, but it's because I found these different deals. And you just have to learn to do these things. And I was not always great at this stuff, and I don't put myself forth as sort of the model finance person from my own life at all. I've learned from mistakes, and think that I have something to offer when it comes to just basic financial advice, as again somebody who is not in any way a financial advisor, just somebody that has hard-earned wisdom, we'll say.
Same here. Well, let me tell you something I like to do. And so we got a lot of credit cards, but we only use one. So this is what we do. Sometimes there'll be an offer where you spend like a couple $1,000 or something. Then a period of time you get $500 back. Now, a lot of it depends on your credit, and you have to kind of build up to that. So, which means without like all the fancy, overspending trend money, you know what I'm talking about. So, but you can build up to this. So what this is really nice is we got some new windows for the house, and what it cost, we wound up getting over $500 back because I tried out a new card, and not only that, I'm earning points as well as I go. So the points that we get, I always put it back to the card. You can either have them, they'll send you a check for whatever the amount is, or you just apply it to the balance of the card, which is what we always do. But there are little perks to having. I've never paid, well, back in my younger days I did. I've paid some finance on credit cards before. But the point is try not to spend more than you can pay back.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And you have to evaluate all this stuff. Like, is it worth the points I'm going to get? Because maybe the business will charge you extra, to run a credit card nowadays. Sometimes they do. But there are ways that you just have to go in and just kind of figure it out, do the math on it.
Well, of course, I have an annual fee for American Express, but because of the Delta points I earn, one of my benefits is X number of hundreds of dollars that I can put toward my credit card fee every year. Well, guess what? They cancel each other out. So the Delta points I earn enable me to put X amount of dollars toward my American Express that year, and it just basically cancels out the fee. So it's a great it's a great arrangement for me. I tend to think that, especially for really young people, keeping your financial accounts as simple as possible is a good thing. Maybe having one credit card or maybe two credit cards, and one bank account, one savings account, just so that you're not making life more difficult than it has to be. I think when you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, then you can start to sort of diversify your assets in a way that sort of paradoxically helps you consolidate your assets, but you're also diversifying them across a range of options and investments. I think your income is typically highest in those years, in particular 40s and 50s for most people. But that also means you need to be saving at that time, because many people, for example, who have children are needing to save for their college fund, or having a health savings account is another good thing, because you never know what unpredictable health issues may come up with your family, yourself, and there are great tax benefits to having a health savings account. Many of them are portable, and 401ks, things like that. These are great, and they help you save with that compound interest, as we were talking about. So this is a great time, 30s, 40s, and 50s, to start planning for retirement, because I know so many people right now who are in their 60s and 70s who are not prepared for retirement, and they will probably be working for their whole life. I plan to work for my whole life because I love working. It's fun. I love what I do. It's so fun. If I were to retire, it would be to continue doing what I do, so I can't imagine ever like retiring in the sense of not working, because I love to work. But I do also want to be, fiscally responsible and prepared for my older years. And just this year, I had a series of kind of major life events happen. And so I redid my will. I redid, my living will. So I have my wishes, and I had to account for things that really I hadn't thought about before. So for example, I have somebody that will come in and take care of all my digital files. And I gave them instructions like, these are my password to my Facebook account. Here are my passwords to my website. This is what I'd like to happen with my website. Here are the different book royalties I've got. I left instructions with every bank account I have, every fund that I'm invested in, just so that if I were to get hit by a bus tomorrow, people wouldn't have to do the hard work of figuring out where all my assets are. Now it's explained. This is what I have. This is where you can find the information. Here are all my passwords. And hopefully I won't get hit by a bus, but if I do, I'm more prepared than I was last year for that kind of occasion.
Absolutely.
At least my heirs and other people are more prepared.
They will appreciate that, I promise you. Let's go into a commercial break, and we'll return in just a few minutes. We'll be right back. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to limonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Limon's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Limon's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of My Pillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all My Pillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television and radio talk show where truth matters, which is why we always have Alan Mendenhall to come back in. I wanted to ask you a question, Alan. And when I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s, my granddads and my dad pounded it in my head, you always buy a house. You never rent. You're only, blah, blah, blah. But I'm seeing a trend where more younger people are opting to rent. And I asked a young person, why are you renting? And they said, well, I don't have to do any of the repairs to the house. Is that true? I mean, in the long run, wouldn't it be worth owning a home more so than renting?
Well, obviously you want to be building equity if you can. A lot of young people are in tough positions, as I mentioned earlier, because they're saddled with student loan debt, and it's harder to find a job for somebody who's right out of college than it once was. And yet we have a lot of employers looking to hire in fields like trades and manufacturing. And, there's a need for plumbers and people that are electricians and all these kinds of things. The demand for those jobs is still very high. And yet those are not typically what college prepares you for. So there's a disconnect where everyone is told that they have to pursue higher education and they have to get a college degree, when in fact, a lot of good paying jobs are out there that don't require the college degree. And the young people are passing on those opportunities and saddling themselves with student loan debt for no reason. Now, back to the housing, I do think housing is a very difficult problem for the United States. I think that if scarcity is a problem in housing, it's not because of the markets, but because of constraints on markets. And I think we have issues with land use and zoning that we could deregulate. I think we have a lot of environmental regulations that place burdens on builders. But if you think about it, the more builders are free to build, the more abundance we have in housing opportunities, then the lower housing costs will be. Mm-hmm. And so we have to figure out what to do to make that situation possible. And it's not always just some simple, easy, one-size-fits-all legislative fix, but there are many, many different areas, from the local to the federal. But we have a lot of these issues on the local level, and also I think little things that sound really great, like first-time home buyer credits and things like that, down payment assistance and preferential mortgage guarantees. These all sound really great. But in the aggregate, across the entire economy, they add up to what are essentially mass subsidies. And what happens when you have government backing of mortgage markets? Well, you're getting sort of artificial pricing. Prices are going to go up. And if you were to let the market set the prices rather than establishing all these different subsidies, well, then the prices would actually be lower. So these are little things that well-intentioned policies result in rising costs across the board, and that contributes to the housing problem. And unfortunately, most people, because they don't have this training in economics, they jump to the first solution they can think of, which is, okay, the government's going to fix it by doing this, by giving money, or by adding this regulation, or doing that. And in the long term, these things end up contributing to the problem they're meant to fix.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want to ask you another question. Okay, so this pertains to a few years ago, my son and daughter-in-law were looking for a place to live. And I said, well, I thought you already had a place to live. He had bought a mobile home. He was going to college, and he rented this mobile home out to 3 other guys. And so, I mean, he had like no expenses basically because the guys paid it for him. And they were tickled because it was less than they would be paying for a dorm. So everybody was happy. It was one of those things. So he's going to get married, and Larissa's parents said, I don't want my daughter living in a mobile home. So Brad started looking for a house. And then, so they came to me because I don't believe in telling the kids what to do. Now, if they ask, I will give my opinion, but that's it. And so Brad and Larissa came to me, and they were talking to me, and they said, we don't know what to do. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? So they already had it planned. They said, well, we'd rather stay in the mobile home and save the money and then put a big down payment on a townhouse. That's what they wanted to do. And I said, well, then that's what you do. And then they wanted to know if I agreed with it. And I said, it doesn't matter whether I did agree with it, but I didn't tell them. I said, that's up to you. You've got to figure this out on your own. And I said, do I think you're going in the right direction? Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't buy something you can't afford. They wanted them to buy the big house, and they had a great process. I think I understand where they were coming from. They thought, well, if you're going ahead and get in debt for it now, it's going to be worth like double that in 10 years. And then you've got all this equity and blah, blah, blah. But I think sometimes we encourage the kids to do things they can't afford to do. And, I mean, we're thinking long range, but that's a big pill to swallow there. So what I'm noticing now is kids are looking for smaller houses. They're looking for 1,000 square foot houses instead of a 3,000 square foot house.
Exactly, especially if you don't have kids yet. Sorry, Donna, I cut you off.
So in other words, you grow into a house instead of the house is already there, So you go with what you have now. It's just the two of you, and then later on you start having kids. Then look for the bigger house.
Well, I can say, and I agree with you entirely. I have gotten a lot of bad advice from people who are older, maybe 20, 30 years older, and it was always about buying this type of house or that type of house, and it was always based on real estate is an appreciating asset, but had I done this or had I done that, I would have been financially strapped and I would have undergone a ton of stress. And in fact, I did have a lot of financial stress in my early 30s from buying a house that was expensive and living above my means, and that was stressful, and I should not have done that. But I think the advice that you gave your son is perfect. And if I recall correctly, I think they've moved into a home and they've paid it off.
They paid it off in less than 10 years. They had a goal. They're goal setters. And I'm so proud of that. So they said, we're going to have to do without stuff, but we want to get this house paid off before the 10th wedding anniversary. And they did.
Well, and think about that. Their real estate is still an appreciating asset, but they have no debt. And so they're not paying mortgage. They're not paying interest. So, they're packing money away, which is fantastic. And they're still an appreciating asset, but it's one that is not costing them money every month, other than basic utilities and whatever else comes with the house. But that's fantastic. I think that's a wonderful story, and one that many people need to hear. And what's so ironic is some of the people in the generations that are giving bad advice grew up in little tiny homes with they had five siblings, and they lived in a 2-bedroom home, and everybody seemed to manage. And then all of a sudden, when they grew up, it was like, well, every child has to have his or her own room, their own bathroom. But that's not how you grew up. So why does it have to be like that now? What changed?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that made Brad and Larissa feel better is Larissa's grandfather said, I think your mother's forgetting that she lived in a mobile home for a while. So she just had something against mobile homes. But now they think my son is the financial wizard of the world, because they have a place that's paid for, And now it took some, you're not going to get everything. You're not going to go eat out every night at the fanciest restaurant. So those are things they had to, but I think it's a good lesson to learn. And sometimes I think we're doing our kids a disjustice. Like we had to grow and build up to live in a bigger house, and they've got to do the same thing. Without the added stress. I've heard this too. Is the lack of money to pay your bills is probably one of the biggest reasons people get divorces, and it causes so much stress. Absolutely. We only have about a minute left in this segment. So what would you, now you're an author and a speaker as well. So let's talk about the books. Where can folks find your writings?
Well, thanks, Donna. My website is probably the best option. It's www.alanmendenhall.com. And I guess you can see how to spell it if you're looking at this screen. If you're listening on radio, it's ALLENMENDENHALL, and all of it is available there.
Absolutely. You can always ask me. I've got him on speed dial. I'll be able to do it. Okay, folks, we got to call it a day. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We definitely appreciate it. And to all of our absolutely wonderful guests, we appreciate you guys too. Alan, thank you again so much for being with me. You make the show. And guys, we'll see you next time around. Y'all take care.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.